Okay, folks, Alex Jones reporting here for Infowars.com with breaking news. Now, please take notes on what I'm about to cover, and please listen to me very, very, very carefully. As you know, a large element of SEAL Team 6 has reportedly been killed in a helicopter shoot-down of a Chinook in Afghanistan. A, quote, NATO helicopter shot down. 32 on board Navy SEALs from the super-secret SEAL Team 6 that carries out Black Ops. In fact, the numbers of SEAL Team 6 are actually much larger than what the public is told. That's why they chose that unit. Now, I am on record predicting that they would stage a helicopter shoot-down to claim that the SEAL Team 6 died in the helicopter or other aircraft crash or shoot down to cover up the fact that Navy SEALs really died, and I'm on record saying this, that Navy SEALs really died in the admitted helicopter, stealth troop-carrying helicopter crash that happened in the bin Laden raid. Remember, they admit a helicopter crashed. They said pilot error, running into a wall, but that nobody died. That already is hard to believe. Then, this is on record on the radio, I said that two different Army sources, because they're over the main operations, the Navy carried it out, but they're over that theater, the intel. The scuttlebutt was that indeed Navy SEALs did die when that helicopter crashed. Okay? And that they died. And that they didn't know whether they died from a crash. They know the helicopter crashed and burned, but they don't know if it was pilot error, A. B, Pakistani military, right down the road, a big military base, shot it down, that's B. Or C, what was reported on Pakistani television from multiple witnesses, that the SEALs got back on the helicopter and did indeed have somebody with them, and that it blew up right as it took off. Blew up. Didn't crash and blew up, blew up. And we're on record playing that Pakistani video, their national TV. We separately had another source. The two sources at Fort Hood and Fort Bragg are unknown to me. They've given us good intel in the past. I talked about on the radio even a month ago, Colonel Six, who's an officer who just got out of the military, who gave us great intel when he was in, that General McChrystal was going to be forced out for a scandal months before. He's proven good intel. He said, yes, SEALs did die in the crash, but no, it wasn't blown up. He disagreed with me on that. Okay, he said they did crash like you heard. The point here is that I am on record from three sources, one on the radio, two separate, all of which have given us good intel, that the helicopter crashed and they died. But they didn't want people looking at what really happened in that raid. And so one of the most famous ways that the Russians, the Israelis, the U.S. have all been caught doing it, you go back to Vietnam, they had an undeclared war from 60 to 64 before the Gulf of Tonkin. 4,000 U.S. troops died, and they would say, oh, they died in a plane crash, they died in a helicopter crash, they died in a accident in training. That's how they would tell the families that they had died. And so you know about those cases. They have a PBS special about the Russians in the Afghan war, saying they died in helicopter, plane crashes, car wrecks, training exercises, because they didn't want to admit that they were having that many losses and that it was a full-on war. So everybody's saying, oh, the terrorists knew that they were on board the helicopter and blew it up. Give me a break. Most of the military doesn't even know where the SEALs are going. Or they're saying, oh, Obama wanted to get rid of the SEALs who would talk about the fact that bin Laden really wasn't killed in the raid, so they knocked him off. That's not the intel we have, and we're on record. And where I need your help, listeners, and you've done this in the past over and over again, is that when we lay out these things, I'm not marking down notes of 15, 20 hours a week of radio that we do or more, and all the videos we do. We don't mark all this down. I know I've said it dozens and dozens of times. I know even a month ago, Colonel Six, I was talking about this, he called in and said, yeah, you're right, they died, but it wasn't blown up. I don't know, but we know that they're covering up. I even predicted it over and over again. So please find the YouTube clips, the audio clips, post them at the bottom of the Alex Jones channel so I can play them on the radio tomorrow so that mainline dumbbells who weren't listening like you were, they can find it. There's millions of you that watch and listen. So if some of you go and dig those out and find them, when I get home, Aaron's looking for them. You can type in, I know I got attacked for it. Alex Jones claims SEALs killed in bin Laden raid. I mean, I know that stuff's out there. My enemies are my best friend because they always hear what I say and think it's a lie and go and complain about it. But the issue here is that they could have killed the SEALs because they were talking. I'm not saying that couldn't have been what happened. And they could have died in a real shoot down. But statistically, out of all these SEALs teams, magically it's the SEALs team from the bin Laden raid. I mean, give me a break. This just stinks to high heaven, especially when the military contacted me. 2 sources off air, 1 source on air, 3 sources total, and said this. What do you think about all this? What do you have to say about all this? Remember the bin Laden raid, the fake Situation Room photo. Turns out Obama wasn't watching. They claimed that bin Laden fought back. Didn't. They admit that was a lie. The Pakistanis saying, the neighbors saying, they went and got on the helicopter, some high-tech looking thing, which they admit did crash. It blew up. I mean, look at how it was all burned wreckage. You really believe nobody got hurt in that? Bottom line, they're covering up what really happened there. And so we've been lied to. The military needs to speak out. This needs to come out. I'm not sure what happened, but I know that we're being lied to. You're buried at sea, the timing of it, the way the PR was announced, the way they said they had video of it, then they said they didn't. And maybe a different part of SEAL Team 6 was killed there in the helicopter explosion. This is another group that was speaking out. I don't know. But this is very, very suspicious. I've talked to former members of Delta Force who said that they were ratted out when they tried to rescue the hostages because folks didn't want Jimmy Carter to look good. And so that he was set up and that they were sent in at the wrong time and a bunch of other stuff happened. It's time for you SEALs and Delta Force people and others to start speaking out. I know people in the military know what really happened. And keeping your mouth shut for treason is just that. It's treason. Silence isn't golden. It's yellow. The truth needs to come out on this. We know the official bin Laden story is a fraud, and they may wipe out even more of the SEALs trying to keep you quiet, like Pat Tillman, who was going to talk about the opium being produced in Afghanistan, which they now admit. Okay, and we know they covered up the fact that they killed him, and that later came out. This is serious, serious business. Watch the special reports at Infowars.com, PrisonPlanet.com, and I'll see you back live on the radio tomorrow at 4 p.m. Central. And if you don't have a local AM or FM, you can listen to the streams at Infowars.com and back Monday, 11 a.m., and we'll continue to cover this. I'll have more reports out today as soon as I get back to my home office. I may even go into the actual office to start covering this. This is so big. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Alex Jones here reporting from the road. This quick report, obviously, because of breaking news. Did President Obama and his controllers order the killing of 20-plus members of SEAL Team 6 who went down, reportedly, on that helicopter in Afghanistan so conveniently? Now, remember, on the radio, I had predicted that they would have some type of staged plane crash or helicopter crash in the months following the staged bin Laden event, so that they could claim that the SEALs were killed after the fact and not on a mission that President Obama sent them on. It's very important for the president, and their own memos have said this, to look like he can take charge and get things done and call the shots and get rid of the wimp factor. Now, we know a stealth helicopter crashed and blew up while they were taking out bin Laden, supposedly. And the local news there, multiple witnesses reported that they all got back on the helicopter and it blew up. Our government says it blew up, but that no one got hurt. That doesn't pass the smell test or the believability test right there. Then my military sources I covered in an earlier video, I've got some new information now, said that they know that the helicopter did crash, people did die, but they don't know if it was blown up or if it was shot by enemies. They don't know if it did crash into the wall like they supposedly said. They don't know, just that there were fatalities. I got that from multiple sources who've been very accurate in the past. Now, here's the information you need to understand. Reuters, AP, the Pentagon are all reporting this is the biggest one-time loss of troops, period, in a 10-year, coming up on 10-year campaign in Afghanistan. It'll be 10 years in September. 10-year campaign, the invasion, everything. They never had 20-plus U.S. troops lost in one day, much less than statistically. It's the SEAL team, and reportedly now they're looking at it being elements of the team that was on the ground in Pakistan. Does anyone believe that? That not only is this the biggest event in the close to decade-long operations, but that it would be the SEALs and much less the very unit that went in and supposedly took out Osama bin Laden. You put all that together, and then you go back and look at the original story. They claimed that he was buried at sea, asinine. That it was Islamic law when it wasn't. That bin Laden fought for 45 minutes with a machine gun and used people as body shields. None of it was true. That Obama was watching that Situation Room video and the stage photo of Hillary, clearly a stage photo, all of them being coached on how to act. They were watching a live feed. Turned out none of that was true. Remember all of this? On and on and on and on. Lies, 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 lies. Now, predictably, and here's the key, they can now start releasing the names in the days and weeks to come of the SEAL team that went and killed bin Laden. But then our heroes, they got taken out by the Taliban. Oh, and I almost forgot the first one I should have made. Those of you emailing me and posting comments that I've seen on Infowars.com and PrisonButter.com, the minority of folks that buy into propaganda, they're saying, hey, Alex, the Taliban took credit. Kind of like somebody on the message boards of the Taliban took credit, or friends of Al-Qaeda, or friends of fruitcakeness, whatever the case was, with the Norway shooter and bomber a few weeks ago. Remember that? How many times I've seen AP articles saying bin Laden puts out a new message, and then later it says unsubstantiated days later from a message board, or it wasn't real, it wasn't true. More often than not, it's totally fake. That's another issue there, that the Taliban says, yes, we did it. So now they can speak for these heroes. Now they can't be there to talk about what really happened on that fateful day, one way or the other. Whether they killed them and these were SEALs that survived, and we're talking about the other helicopter that blew up and the folks that were reportedly killed, or whether they just used a crash that happens routinely and then just tagged on the names of the dead SEALs onto that roster. And that's something that's been declassified that our government, the Russian government, and many, many others did. In Vietnam, the first 4 years of it that was undeclared, that's how they made up for thousands of deaths. Was died in an automobile accident, died in a plane crash, helicopter crash, died when a pallet fell over on them in the warehouse. That's how they would do that. The Russians did the same thing in the Afghan war, covering up what was happening with their people. So if troops die in covert operations, you just wait till a few months later when there's another crash or something in training, you tag them on. So this totally stinks to high heaven. I don't know exactly what's happening here, but I know that the official story has been proven to be a fraud. And so you can't trust these people. And now the predictable stuff of let's nuke Afghanistan, let's nuke Pakistan, they killed our Navy SEALs, heroes. Now they can come speak for the SEALs and tell folks whatever story they want. And the ridiculous fable of what happened with bin Laden, that now can't be challenged. And again, I predicted this would happen through my sources. It is so incredible. And we know that multiple helicopters were involved. We know the assault force was more than 40. And now, quote, 20 plus of the SEAL Team 6 are dead. We can see this coming a million miles away. This is so incredibly obvious, and it stinks to high heaven, and we need people in the military to speak out. We need the people that know the truth about this, just like the Pat Tillman murder. Turned out it was a murder because he was going to speak out against opium and other corruption. Now they just admit our troops are there helping grow the opium. Our troops don't work for America anymore. They're good men and women, but they work for the corrupt globalists, and it's time to bring them all home. And I'm sorry for the big major banks if that means the opium price goes down for them or they don't make as good a profit. I'm sorry. Your New World Order must come down. So we'll be covering this tomorrow on the radio live at 4 p.m. Central on the Sunday edition of the show. And please spread the word about this information and point out the statistical impossibilities of what we're talking about here, that it's the biggest death in the 10-year war, and it just so happens to be the SEAL team that went in for bin Laden. And then you've got all the ridiculous stories involved with that. None of this holds water. And so that's basically it. That's the points I wanted to make. And now they can hype up war even more, saying, man, they killed our heroes. Aren't they dirty rats? Thank you so much for watching. Check out this information for yourself. Does anybody in their right mind buy anything these congenital lying politicians say? They've been caught lying over and over and over again, even when the truth would suit them. Yes, our republic is tattered like this old Texas flag. We can breathe life into it at any time by not being naive and by not being gullible. It's now time as a society to grow up and to realize we've let the criminals take over society. We've let our servants act like our bosses so long, they now want to make us their absolute slaves. It's time for this world to awaken. to the bin Laden killing hoax, to the 9/11 hoax, to the banker bailout hoax, to the private Federal Reserve hoax, and every other hoax in between. It's time to awaken to the fluoride in our water hoax. It's time to break our conditioning. It's time for humanity to arise.